Hi everyone, and welcome to today's 4th grade informative writing lesson. Today we're working on section 2, lesson 27. My name is Mrs. Calm and I'll be your teacher throughout today's lesson. Let's go ahead and start with a quick review. In the previous lessons, we went over how to plan for an informative essay. Remember, to plan, we use an ITC outline. As you can see on the screen, this is a blank ITC outline. We want to make sure that we plan out everything before we start writing our essay because this is our roadmap. Once this is filled out, we are going to know exactly what to write about in every single paragraph. This is why it's crucial to make sure that you always complete planning before you write your essay. Also, as you're creating your ITC outline, you want to make sure you're boxing and labeling everything in your passages. So make sure you clearly have put a box and labeled each topic as T1, T2, and T3 in your passages. Now, you've learned how to plan, and now it's time to start writing the essay. So if you look at the very beginning of this ITC outline, the first letter you see is an I. That stands for introduction paragraph. That is our first paragraph. We're going to be learning how to write the introduction paragraph today. So today's objective is to learn how to write the introduction paragraph for an informative essay. This paragraph is short and simple. It has 3 parts, and we're going to do lots of practice so you fully understand how to write an introduction paragraph for an informative essay. Now, the introduction paragraph is also known as the I paragraph. This is the very first paragraph of your entire essay. Now, there are many ways to structure your introduction paragraph. We're going to go over one way today, but just know there are multiple ways that you can set it up. But today, I'm going to show you one easy way that has 3 parts and how you can easily set up your introduction paragraph. Think of your introduction paragraph as kind of like the very beginning of a movie. You're not telling all the parts and everything that happens, but you're kind of giving the person who's watching a little glimpse of the overall topic and what your movie is going to be about. This is the same way you're going to set up your introduction paragraph for your essay. You're not going to go into details on everything. You're not going to give tons of examples and support. You are just simply introducing the topic and stating the topics that you're going to be going over in your essay. That way your reader has an idea of what they're about to read. The key to your introduction paragraph is to make sure that you state the controlling idea, and that is what the prompt states, and the topics that you're going to be discussing. So those 3 topics, T1, T2, and T3. That is exactly what you want to make sure you include in your introduction paragraph. You're going to introduce the controlling idea, which is the overall topic from the prompt, and your 3 topics that you're going to be discussing, which is pretty easy because you already have those 3 topics written out on your ITC outline. So let's take a look at the I paragraph structure that you're going to be learning today. When writing an I paragraph, you want to have 3 parts. The first part is your hook. The second part is your 3-topic sentence. And the third part is your closing statement. Okay? So you're going to have a hook, 3 topics, and a closing statement. That's it. Told you. Pretty simple, right? The introduction paragraph is only 3 to 4 sentences, so it's not very long, but you want to make sure that you include these 3 parts. Now, let's talk about hook for a minute. There are many different ways to write a hook. The hook is where you want to catch your reader's attention. Kind of think of it like a fishing hook, right? You catch your fish. You want to catch your reader's attention. You want to kind of make them question and want to know more about what you're talking about. So when you're writing hooks, there are many different ways or types of hooks. If you look on the right side of the screen, I'm going to go over a few of these. One way to write a hook is by stating a question. Another way to write a hook is by making a strong statement about the topic. Another way to write the hook is to restate the prompt in your own words. You can also take words from the prompt to make a statement. You can also tell a personal story, which would only be a little mini 1 to 2 sentence story. You can set the scene, and you can give a fact or definition. These are just some of the types of hooks that you can use when writing your essay. Let's look at some examples. Who remembers the alligator passages that we went over in our previous lessons? There was alligators at risk and alligator habitats, okay? I'm going to show you real quick to refresh your memory. We had alligators at risk. I still have all my notes from when we went over it last time. And alligator habitats. Now, if you had those passages and you had to write a hook. Now, remember that the prompt told us to write to inform our reader about alligators. Okay, so if I had to write a hook about that, let me show you some examples of what I could do. If I wanted to write a question, I could write, did you know that alligators are very interesting creatures? That would make my reader go, they are. I want to know more information. The second type of question you could say is, how much do you really know about alligators? That would also make your reader go, well, I don't know if I know that much. Let me keep reading. And another question you could use is, did you know that alligators are at risk? Again, this would catch the reader's attention because they'd want to read to find out more. So those are 3 different types of question hook examples that you could use. Maybe you wanted to restate the prompt or use words from the prompt. You could say something simple like alligators are a fascinating sight to see and explore. Or alligators are interesting reptiles that can grow very large. And if you want to just make a simple statement about the topic, which is alligators, you could put, most people do not realize there are different types of alligators in the world. Again, that would catch your reader's attention because they say there are, and they want to read more to find out. Or you could say, alligators are very interesting creatures. Again, that would hook your reader's attention. So these are just some hook examples that you could use if you were going to write a hook for the alligator passages that we went over in those previous lessons. So since we've already gone over the alligator passages and you all know all about them, I want to now go to the document camera and show you how to write an introduction paragraph for these passages. Now, the great thing about these passages is we've already read them, and we've already boxed and labeled, and we've already done our full planning, so we don't need to do that again. So we've completed the planning. We are ready to jump right into the introduction paragraph. So I want to go through all the parts of an introduction paragraph and model how to do that with you today. Okay, so I'm going to use 3 different colors with my markers because I want you to clearly see the 3 parts of an introduction paragraph. So I'm going to do a little cheat box up here and just remind you that the introduction paragraph has a hook. It has a 3-topic sentence where you name your 3 topics. And it has a closing sentence, just so we can remember. Okay, I'm going to put that up at the top. Now, I'm going to start with my hook. Remember that my topic is alligators. I have my planning here, so I need to ask a question or make a statement, some type of hook to get my reader's attention and introduce the topic of alligators. So we went over some example hooks. Did you know that alligators are very interesting creatures? Okay, I'm going to put a little check so I know I'm done with my hook. Now I have to write my 3-topic sentence. Basically, that means that your 3 topics, which are species, reptile, and habitats, need to go into a sentence. You are not talking about any of your A's and B's, okay? Those are not your topics, those are your subtopics. Those are for the middle paragraphs. For this sentence, you are just stating your 3 topics, species, reptile, and habitats. Now you have to put them in a sentence that makes sense. You can't just put alligators are interesting because species, reptile, habitats. That doesn't make any sense. So we have to make sure we put words around it so that it makes sense. So I'm going to put alligators are interesting because, now my T1 is species, so I'm going to say because there are 2 different species, comma, my T2 is reptile. They are a type of reptile, comma, and type of habitats. They live in various habitats. Okay, so that's my 3-topic sentence. I'm done. So I named my 3 topics: species, reptile, and habitat. So you can see right here I have species, reptile, and habitats. And again, I didn't just put alligators are interesting because species, comma, reptile, comma, and habitats. That doesn't make sense. I had to put words around it. There are two different types of species. They are a type of reptile, and they live in various habitats. The other thing is I didn't name any of my A's and B's. Okay, you want to make sure you don't do that. Save those A's and B's for the middle paragraphs. I don't want you to put alligators are interesting because there is the Chinese and American alligator. I don't want you to say that. The Chinese and American, save that for the middle paragraphs. Okay, just state these three topics. Okay, and the last sentence, I'm going to use my green marker, is the closing sentence. Okay, in the closing sentence, I like to explain this as just say something nice about your topic. Okay, it's very general. It just closes out the paragraph. It can just be a simple statement about it. But for this one, I'm going to put alligators aren't as scary once you learn more about them. And that's my closing. So if you're looking at the screen, you can see three different colors. In black, you will see my hook, which I used a question. In pink, you will see my three topics. And in green, you'll see my closing sentence. Okay, and I'm done. That's my introduction paragraph for the alligator passages. Now, I want to show you one more example because I always think it's good to see a couple of examples before you try it on your own. Now, remember those climate passages that we used in the previous lessons? I'm going to show you mine. It was climates and introduction. That was the first one. And then climate zones, okay? Now you'll notice in a lot of these lessons, I'm gonna be using the same passages over and over and over again. So we may use alligators in the next passage again, or climates in another passage. And I do that on purpose because I don't want you to have to reread new passages every single lesson. We've already read climates and alligators. We've already boxed and labeled and planned. If I picked brand new passages, you'd have to reread passages and replan every single lesson. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep sticking to the same ones so that we can learn the different parts of the essay. So again, I'm pulling out the climates one I did a few days ago, and I have it already boxed and labeled, and I have my planning all done. So I can see my three topics, so I can write my essay, or my first paragraph. All right, now, we're going to be working on this one together. Now, I'm going to use the same planning that I did the other day. Now, for some reason, I couldn't have, if I didn't find it, I could redo my planning, but I'm just going to copy this. So I have climates, then I have factors, tropical, dry, latitude and distance was both about factors. Sun and habitats was about the tropical zone, and little rain and the cacti plant were about the dry zone. Okay, so I'm just using that planning. So if you ever come to a planning that you've already done, you can pull out your old planning and just copy it right on that new worksheet. Okay, now we're going to write the I paragraph. So I'm going to make myself a little key again just to help you all follow along. I'm going to use, let's use brown, blue, and green. So I'm just going to put a little key right here. So my hook I'm going to do in blue. My three topics I'm going to do in brown. And what's the last sentence called of an introduction paragraph? Anybody remember? The closing statement. And again, I'm just writing this as a little cheat box right now just because we're just learning it. I want you to remember those three parts all the time. So I'm going to start with a hook. Now I can ask a question, I can make a statement, I can start with a small story, I can use a fact or definition. Any of those are acceptable for writing a hook, okay? So for this one, I'm going to say, since I used a question in the last one, I'm just going to use a simple statement for this one. So I'm going to indent, and I'm going to say, there are different climate zones around the world. Just a simple statement. I could have made that into a question. I could have said, did you know that there are several different climate zones around the world? I could also say, how much do you know about climates in the world? Any of that's acceptable. All right, so I did my hook. I'm going to put a little check. Now I'm going to write my 3 topics. So I have factors, tropical, and dry. Remember, I got to put them in a sentence that makes sense. I can't just say, climates are interesting, or the things about climates are factors, tropical, and dry. That doesn't make sense. I have to use words around it. So I'm going to put many factors make the climate vary from place to place, and create different kinds of climate, including tropical and dry. So I put factors. I'm just going to underline in front of factors, tropical, and dry. So that way I'm mentioning the topics, the 3 topics I'm going to discuss in my essay in my introduction paragraph. And then I'm going to do a simple closing where I can just say something nice about the topic. So I'm going to say, learning about climates can teach us a lot about a place. Okay, so I have my hook, my 3 topics, and my closing. I am done writing my introduction paragraph for this activity. Okay, so now we've done an introduction paragraph for alligators and an introduction paragraph for climates. You can see here, once you have your planning done, you'll be writing your introduction paragraph based off that planning, okay, because you're going to need your 3 topics. You always start with a hook. Remember, your hook can be question, statement, story, fact, definition, and it should just mention the main topic, which is climates. Okay, again, you don't want to get into specific A's and B's, just something general. Then you're going to list your 3 reasons, your T1, T2, and T3 in a sentence that makes sense. Now, I will give you a little trick. You can split that into 2 sentences if you want. If it doesn't make sense to put it all in one sentence, you can write this 3 topic sentence and break it into 2 sentences. That's perfectly fine. And then you also have your closing, which ends it, and that's where I just say something nice about the topic. Okay, let's go back to our PowerPoint. Now I want you to take out the guided practice for lesson 27. It's on the back of the sheet I just did, so it's going to look, the marker's showing through a little bit, but that's okay. Just so you know, it says lesson 27 guided practice, and it's on the passages magnetism. Now, we did this one the other day as well, so I do want you to take out those passages on magnetism. Here's the prompt. If you have your planning that you did the other day, you can go ahead and take that out and copy it right on here. If for some reason you can't find it, you'll have to reread and redo your planning. Hopefully you still have it. Okay, now for this guided practice, you are going to write the introduction for the magnetism passages. Okay, so you should be done like I said. Let me show you real quick. Magnetism was the very beginning of it. Okay, and I want you to make sure that you include your hook, your 3 topics, and your closing statement. Okay, so take your time with this. I want you to pause and actually just just because I want you guys to have a little cheat box right now, just as a little mental note. Up in the corner here, just write hook, 3 topics in closing. And as you write each sentence, just come check it off. Okay, so after you write your hook, put a check next to hook. After you write your 3 topics, put a check next to 3 topics. And after you write your closing, put a check next to closing. That way we can make sure that you have all 3 parts before we move on. All right, so you're going to pause this video and write your introduction paragraph for the magnetism passages. When you're done, come back to the video and push play. Go ahead and push pause. Okay, welcome back. If you are back, that means you should have written your introduction paragraph for your magnetism passages. Now, I want to take a minute, like always, to go through and do some self-assessment. Okay, this is where you are going to check your own paper. Now, if you have highlighters, I want you to get out highlighters because color coding is an important part of writing. I want to make sure that you have all the parts. So if you have highlighters, doesn't matter what colors, go ahead and get those out. If you don't have highlighters, maybe color pencils or crayons, you can always underline the sentences and colors. And I want you to color code using the key to the right. Now, if you don't have yellow, green, and blue, use any 3 colors you have. But I do want you to highlight your hook in 1 color, highlight your 3 reasons or topics in 1 color, and then highlight your closing statement in 1 color. So you should clearly see 3 different parts. Okay, make sure you see 3 different parts. I'll give you a few more seconds. Okay, if you need more time, you can pause the video and take more time to do the self-assessment. All right, that's all I wanted you to check, was to make sure that you have your hook, your 3 reasons or topics, and your closing statement, okay? And you can check that by highlighting or color coding those in 3 different colors. Now I want you to take a second, look at the paragraph that you just wrote, and I want you to reflect. You just wrote the introduction for magnetism, okay? Now before you turn it in, I want you to think about it. What did you do well on? You just checked it by highlighting, so you know what you did well on. Maybe you had all 3 parts. That's awesome. You remembered all 3 parts. Whatever you did well on, just make a mental note. You don't have to write anything down. Then I want you to ask yourself, what did I forget? Maybe you forgot to indent, or maybe you forgot to write the closing statement, or maybe you forgot to list one of your topics. Think about what you forgot. And last, I want you to ask yourself, what can I do better? Maybe you did forget to put all 3 topics and you want to make sure you do that next time. Or maybe your closing statement was too short and you want to make sure you make it a little more detailed next time. Whatever that is, make a mental note of that as well. Now, reflection is a very important part to the writing process. So if you need more time, please push pause, take time to reflect on your writing, and then push play when you're ready to keep going. And last, I want to give you time to revise. Now we know that you should have a hook, you should have stated your 3 topics, and you should have a closing statement. So I want you to go back and check, and if you forgot something, I want you to add it now. If you made a mistake, I want you to fix it now. I want you to check for your capitalization, your spelling, your clarity, and maybe you got everything there. Maybe you had all the parts and you remembered everything. I also want you to take a look at your paragraph and see maybe there's a word you can change. You can make it a little higher level word. Maybe you can add more detail or description, make it more interesting. Revising isn't always about fixing the mistakes or things you did wrong. It's also making your paper better. So you can always take time during your revising time to make your paper better by changing words, adding details, things like that. I'm going to wrap up today's lesson with a quick quote. It's okay to not know. It's not okay to not try. And that is true with pretty much everything you do in life. But when it comes to the writing lessons, I want you to know it's okay if you don't know it. That's what I'm here for, to teach you. But it's not okay to not try. I want you to at least try. I want you to practice. And I know that you're going to keep growing and growing, getting better as a writer. Great job today, everyone. I will see you in the next lesson.